Scotty, final game of the year, Hanson Park this weekend. It's been a long season. Bits happened, but you must be looking forward to one last game at Hanson.
Absolutely. I think it's one of our favourite grounds to go to, and hopefully everyone turns out and we can put on a bit of a show and weather holds. And yeah, there's nothing better than seeing the crowd on the bank and cheering us on.
I guess reflecting on last week's game against the Lions, the first sort of 15-20 minutes looked great, but then they kind of just ran over the top. I mean, what can you take out of that early patch of the game that you can hopefully try and replicate more consistently this weekend?
Yeah, just to be adaptable. They changed things up at quarter time and we just didn't adjust. And so yeah, it's the lesson that against the good sides you can go in with a well set plan, but they are that good that they just change things up, and then you've got to be able to be, I suppose, on your toes and change things as you need to try and get the game looking like what you want to. So yeah, there's a few little lessons in there with structural stuff that we went through this week, and I mean, they're a very good side. They're the reigning premier for a reason. So yeah, it's the similar margin to last year, so it's good to sort of pit yourself where you sit from year to year, and they're definitely the benchmark.
We obviously saw Laura and Julie both come back this week from fairly significant injuries, but about the game, how they pulled out? Yeah,
really well. Laura is better and better each day, and feeling much better. And Julie, similar. Julie actually went to the game and she was fully fit, and just precautionary now that she's walking around with a bit of a bandage on her elbow. But no, it's all good.
In terms of like someone like Laura in particular, who's such an integral player, not just this year but long term, was there ever any thought about just monitoring that and maybe not pushing her this year, or was there a real want from her to get back out there as well?
Yeah, a little bit of both really. We discussed the way we're structuring our midfield group, because our midfield group is it's actually been going really well, and it was on the basis as does Laura come back and play forward, or what do we do? Do we rest her? And you know, we just made the decision that based on the medical advice she was 100% fine to go, so we just thought, oh well, it's one of our better players, so let's put her back in. And you know, I thought she did okay. She was under a lot of pressure and they put a lot of time into her, but yeah, Laura just works through the game and just runs it out, so she's an amazing athlete.
Looking at the team again, I know we've spoken a bit about the age profile this year. I think it's like 13 players, 21 under or something like that on the list. How do you make sure that they're finding confidence in the performance this year? Like obviously the scoreboard last weekend in the North Melbourne game, when you just look at that kind of in isolation, it might not be great, but there's been some real strength in the performances. Yeah,
definitely. We don't focus on the score itself in review. We basically take the lessons from what the opposition threw at us, and I think we've actually got a lot of growth this year. It's been really positive from a perspective that you learn different things of what sides do to you, how they stop your momentum and what they do when they get momentum. And Brisbane did a couple of things that were really clever and shows the synergy that they've got amongst the group, and particularly sort of post clearance on the outside, and we got a lot out of that. And part of that is, I suppose, time in like the strength and the ability to spread from contests, but a lot of it is structural as well. And yeah, we got some really good looks. So I think that's the positive, that the group sort of, when you show them particularly from behind the goals, they sort of go, it's like a light bulb moment. So you're sort of adding little bits into their learning as they go. And one of the pleasing things is when you do a review, all the pens come out and they take notes and write everything down, and I love that. So it's a really good reflection, even though it's hard at the moment, you know, getting those lessons from a scoreboard sense. It's definitely some positives.
West Coast have obviously been a very different prospect this year under Daisy. What have you kind of made of their season and their improvement under her and her first year as a senior coach?
Yeah, they've done very well. They again, you know, she's a very sound coach, and she's very keen to take the game on, which is great because that's what we do as well. So it should be a bit of a shootout. Yeah, both sides are on a journey of learning, and I suspect in another 3 or 4 years' time we'll hopefully both be competing for finals. So really looking forward to hit out against them. And yeah, they've got some great talent on that list and a lot of young talent. They've built it up, and yeah, they're a formidable force if they get going.
I know it's been a bit of a talking point this season, but now that we're kind of finally at the end of the regular season, having the condensed fixture, having those extra games in, how are the playing group kind of feeling? Can you notice is it noticeable that maybe exhaustion, a bit of fatigue compared to this time last year?
Yeah, not so much that. It was more just the lack of access to them from a training perspective, because we couldn't train. You're basically playing 3 games, and particularly in our situation, we're such a in a learning phase that we didn't get time to review properly, then go out and train it. So we found that we were making the same mistakes for 3 games in a row, and that 4th game, when you come out of the condensed fixture, there's a little bit of fatigue there. So you're sort of sitting in that world of not training even post condensed fixture, which makes it hard. So I think it really hampered us from a learning perspective and being able to improve. And it's really only the last 2 weeks that we've actually got on the track and done double sessions. And yeah, that's probably more the lesson than the fatigue side of it.
And in terms of what you'd kind of like to see implemented next year, is there much different that needs to be implemented with 1 extra game and things like that? Like, what needs to change to make it better, or is it just growing on what's been done this year?
I think it's, for me, I would like to see the season come forward. I think it's ideal if we could. I've been a big advocate for Tier 1 venues, and the season coming forward will allow us to do that. Whether it's double headers or just access to the better grounds, I think the product will be better. The spectacle will be better for the spectators, and the crowd will come eventually. And I'd love to see the traditions to start to perform as well, that, you know, there's a particular game, whether it's us and GWS on a particular round, and just lock that in. And then I think for us, if there is midweek footy, I'm fine with midweek footy, but then you need the proper break. So whether you play, you know, I don't know, a Wednesday night, then you might play the following Thursday night, for instance, and the following week you go back to the weekends. So it's a staggered approach would make sense to me. The time in between games, I think the big lesson is that it's critical from a learning perspective and from being able to train and make the product better, and that's really important for the growth of the game.
Is that kind of what you're sensing from the players as well, that that's where their heads are at?
Yeah, I haven't actually spoken to the players much about it other than the leaders, and they're similar. So it'd be interesting to do that after the season and get a survey and find out what exactly they think. And it is hard. The ones that study and have work commitments, I suppose that's where the difficulty is. But as we move to a more full-time product, I think it's really important that we take the learnings from that, and then also what's best for the staff, because it's hard on the staff as well that are part-time. They've also got other jobs and things that they're doing. So there's a lot to consider, and yeah, it'll be an interesting conversation with the AFL over this off-season and see what they're thinking, and then, you know, collectively, I think everyone's on the same page. We just want what's best for the product.
And just finally, Giselle, I think, had a bit of an injury in the week. How she pulled up, and is there any chance this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's probably 50-50 at the moment, but she'll go through a test tomorrow at training, and she's walking around at the moment now and making coffee, so she seems okay.